Welcome to Chess, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys for stopping by very much. I was pleasantly surprised yesterday to find out that they do have a live tournament going on right now. It is the Superbet, part of the Grand Chess Tour. They're playing it in Bucharest, Romania. So this is one of the first actual live events that they've had, like international events they've had with everybody rolling. They've kind of played some like, national types of tournaments like the Romanian or not the Russian tournament, stuff like that. They played that stuff in person, but as far as like, total everybody playing from different countries and stuff, they've pretty much been doing it online. So I'm really excited, that they actually have a live tournament going on. And for all of my people in the Philippines, magandang umaga. Kamusta na? Mabuhay. Ingat lagi to you guys. Maraming salamat po sa nanonood. Aking kaibigan. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Anybody who's coming from Azerbaijan, salam to you. Kak sagol. Appreciate you guys stopping by and taking a look at my stuff. If you guys are ready to go, we will take a look and see what we have for this game. All right. We got D4, D5. We got knight to F3, knight to F6. We have C4, pawn takes C4, E3. We got E6, bishop takes C4, and then we have A6. So we have the Queen's Gambit accepted here. And so, it's the most common probably way that you get to it after D4 is going to be knight coming to F6, C4, E6, knight to F3. We got D5, and then E3, pawn takes C4, bishop takes C4, A6. Of course, there's also after D4, D5, C4, E6. You can get there that way as well. These are all just transpositions. When you get pretty serious into the game, you start understanding kind of how to study openings. You get a better understanding of kind of like, how to get to the same position multiple different ways. So definitely look into that. But like I said, we do have A6. We have castles by white. We got C5. As you guys know, white has a pretty legitimate center, so black is trying to chip away at that a little bit. So we got pawn takes C5, bishop takes C5, queen takes D8, king takes D8 only move, bishop back to E2, king comes to E7. We see rook to D1, knight B to D7, and then we see knight to D4. And up until this point, giving credit to Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, he is playing very strongly. This is very, very good for white. So it's just pretty much kind of white's game to kind of start giving away a little bit. After knight comes to E5, we do see B3. Now, something that was really interesting to play, actually, knight to D4 is the novelty. I missed that. Knight to D4 is the novelty. Before this point, after knight B to D7, we have seen knight B to D2. That's going to be by far the most common move played in this position. But after knight to D4, we do see knight to E5. And then, like I said, we see B3. But if we backed up after knight to E5, the computer really, really wants knight to B3. And then after bishop comes to D6, then develop the knight to C3. The thing about it is, it does seem like you kind of touched the knight a couple of times. But, whenever you're going to be gaining a tempo on somebody, it's a little bit more justified to use the tempo. If you're using a tempo literally just to move a piece for no reason, then it's probably not justified. But, moving back to B3, you are placing an attack on this undefended bishop. So that is very tactical. But like I said, we did see B3. We got bishop to D7. We have bishop to B2. We got knight to C6. Knight takes C6. Bishop takes C6. Rook over to C1. Logical. If this pawn was not here supporting this bishop, then you would have some real problems on your hand with this move. But you want to remember, this type of a situation. A lot of the times when you have a rook and you have two bishops or two knights or anything kind of on the same rank or file, the rook is very good at attacking both of them together, and it's impossible to cover both of them. Unless you kind of have a pawn that can kind of go here, then you have some ability. But we got bishop down to B4. We have knight over to A3. We have knight back to D7. We got knight to C4. And then we have bishop to D5. And so what I want you to guys to go ahead and do in this position is see, what you guys would play here as white. To see what looks juicy, what looks like a nice move to play. Go ahead and see what you guys will pick here. All right, cool. So it's kind of like, it's not a trick question, but it's kind of like I'm kind of setting something up. So now there's a right move and then there's a trap move to make. Okay, so the correct move in the position is A3. A3 and G3 are the two strongest moves to play in the position. So hopefully you picked A3. But if you chose bishop takes G7, I'm sad because you have fallen for the bait. You have taken the bait that Wesley so laid down. He was really wanting bishop to check on G7 because the problem now you have to think about is that this bishop is attacking this G2 square. And so all you need to do now is move rook H to G8. And you are attacking the undefended bishop, but you are X-raying through and you're going to be attacking this king. So you kind of left your king open for a little bit. So hopefully nobody chose that. But yes, backing up to what we had, like I said, we did see A3. Noticing that was a tactic in there. So bishop comes back to C5. We see B4. We got bishop back to A7. We have knight to A5. So, we're just throwing a little attack on this, juicy looking pawn here. Also, we're trying to get this rook into this 7th rank, because that's the best possible place for it. But then Wesley So says we're not doing that. He says we're not playing that kind of chess, Shak. So we got bishop to D3. Now be careful with this bishop to D3 move. Don't pull a Bobby Fischer and take this pawn and get trapped. Don't do that. But we see F5. And so we got bishop to C4. Bishop takes C4. Knight takes C4. We have B5 attacking the knight. After knight moves to A5, we see G6 now. And as you guys can see, we do not have a light square bishop. So that threat that I mentioned before is not live. So we do now have to protect that G7 pawn. So G6 is played. King comes to F1. We see bishop to B6. Knight down to B3. Of course, we don't want to allow a trade. Because if, we trade, we're going to have really ugly pawns. And that's just going to be giving black way too much. So the knight comes to B3. We see E5. Now, what black is trying to do is they're trying to shut down this bishop. Because this bishop is actually on a really nice diagonal. So with this pawn here, with all these pawns on light squares, it is basically giving this white pawn like just free reign. So we're trying to shut that down with E5. So the king comes to E2. We got rook taking C1, rook taking C1. We got rook to A7. We have E4. Now, this isn't giving away a pawn. I mean, literally, if the pawn is taken, we're just going to be playing knight to D2. And you guys can see that you guys have both of these weak pawns hit. So it's not possible to defend both of them. So one of them is going to drop. So it's just a way to try to, cause black to have a really bad pawn structure if you're able to. So Wesley So avoids that. So after E4, we do see rook to C7. Rook takes C7, bishop takes C7, and then we see F3. I'm going to mention something about the structure here coming up. We got king to E6, bishop down to C1. We see F4, G3, G5, G4, bishop to B6, and we see H3. Now, the significance with H3, as you guys notice, you are in an endgame with knights and bishops. And the thing about endgames, or just pieces moving in general, kings, it's very hard for kings to like manage two different sides of the board. So what you really have to do as white is make sure that you have this king side, pretty much secured before you try to move over. You don't want to have to worry about trying to move your way this way, and you have some weaknesses over here. So white is putting all of their pawns on light squares because black has a dark squared bishop. So it is going to be really hard for black to attack your pawns on this side of the board. So like I said, as you can see, all of them are on light squares. Also, this is a dark square bishop, so you do kind of want your bishop to have some movability. So putting your pawns on opposite color squares than your bishop is helpful as well. So we have king to D6. We have king to D3. Bishop down to F2. King down to E2. We got bishop to B6. King to D3. Bishop to G1. Bishop to B2. Knight to B6. So as you guys can see, this bishop is restricting the movement of this king. This king pretty much has to kind of go back and forth because, it has to protect this pawn. You're not able to put bishop here now because, you're just going to be losing a pawn. So we see knight to A5. Knight comes down to A4, attacks the bishop. We got bishop to A1. Bishop comes back to B6. We have knight to B3. Bishop comes to E3. Bishop to C3. Bishop comes back to B6. Bishop comes to A1. We have bishop to E3. Bishop comes back to C3. Bishop to B6. Bishop to A1. and then bishop comes back to e3, and we do have a draw by threefold repetition. As you guys can see, you know, there really isn't much progress to be made. There really isn't any way for this white king to penetrate. It's also not possible for this black king to penetrate. You know, you're not able to really move your knight anywhere legitimate. And so you are just in a really, really stuck position here for both sides. So as Maurice Ashley says, it's triple zeros. Like, it's just deadlock, man. So that is the end of that one. So that is round one from the Superbet Romania. I was hoping to see, you know, a win, but it's insane because every single game was drawn. So I opened the thing up and I was like, what? All draws? And I was like, and I was just really hoping it wasn't those typical draws, but I don't think they would start off a tournament like that. But yes, this was the first game. I will be following the tournament, trying to get as many good games as possible for you guys. But getting to these languages here, I actually was able to recite all 13 of them earlier today. You know, of course, I already get Tagalog at the first of the video, but moving on. I have Maayon Buntag, Mayed na agahan, Naibeg na bigat, Masentos ya kawasan, Marhe na aga, Buenos dias, Maayong aga, Mapia na uma, Kapian kapa nu dios. This is where it gets tough. I got, man, I know Mayad na aga. I think maybe is that the, yeah, that's one. Mayap abak, Mapia agay, and I have a Mapia kapapita. That is Maranao. And then I have a big bukla, and that is Sambal. So I got, I think I got 15 out of the 19, so I just got 4 more that I need to get. So I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, and I'll see y'all next time.